Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I got a yes or no question that are you have to really listen to today because this is a great question that so many leaders kind of forget about. And we're going to be talking about human potential. And I want to ask this question: can fulfilled human potential on your team, can that and maximum profits coexist? So often we see that leaders think it's either people or profit. A lot of leaders think it's profit over people. There's a lot of different thoughts on that. So depending on where you fit in this thought process, you will enjoy our awesome discussion we're going to have today. I'm honored to be hanging out with Hanna Bauer. How are you today?
I am doing great. How about you, Dave?
I'm doing well, a little cold, but that's okay.
I
You're in
feel you.
Atlanta and you said you're cold, so I don't feel bad being in the Midwest and being cold if you're cold. So,
I am definitely cold. I got a heater going on. It's probably see my hair blowing. It's not that I'm not a
well, it
joke.
looks like it looks like you're doing one of those famous, you're a movie star and
Yeah.
your hair is moving. So,
No, it's a
cool.
heater,
Well,
y'all.
that's how fast this is going to go today because this is such a great topic. And you are founder and CEO at HEARTnomics Enterprises. So fill us in on what HEARTnomics Enterprises is.
Well, Heartnomics in a simple sense is, I help leaders do the thing, but not just the thing, do the right thing and do it right. So
There you
meaning
go.
that picking purpose, love, so transformation through love and excellence. So the operational systems that help us do that in leadership, I have come to find that is really what helps us balance them both. And that's really what our conversation is going to go into today. But that's what I love to do. I love serving leaders.
That's awesome. And I think that again, asking that question, a lot of times we have this either or mentality, at least that I see, my travels, talking to different entrepreneurs around the world, is that it's like either human potential, either I'm gonna have a great team with no profit, or I'm gonna
Mhm.
have a bad team with tons of profit, right? And
Yes.
and that's what I really want to unpack today because I think there's a different way to look at this. And I'm really excited to understand what that heartnomics is. Before we jump into that, though, Hannah, we do have a lot of people listening right now from around the world, and they love to hear the journey that you've had. You were in corporate America and you kind of, earlier in your career, it looks like you made a transition into
Yeah.
owning your own businesses of different kinds.
Yeah.
So, what did that journey look like? Because a lot of people want what we have where we own our own business, but they don't know how to get there. So, I like to just, hear from you how your journey was and if there's any, feedback that you have for people listening.
Sure. Well, like a couple of things, honestly. One is service. I didn't really know what to do, so I started serving because that's what I saw. And then in serving, I got exposed to different industries. I got exposed to different roles. So that's kind of what started my journey in looking for, well, how can I serve? I started like in the healthcare, and then I went into
Okay.
more of the education part, and that's when I was able to serve in a family business. And then that got me started with, owning an enterprise, being a stakeholder, eventually becoming the majority stakeholder. So I would say a lot of times it came out of inspiration, that then it was motivation, and then became desperation because when it's which fit into the motivation again. So,
Sure.
and I think really honestly, that's what happens a lot in the entrepreneur journey. Sometimes you don't do it because like, oh, I'm going to think of entrepreneur, but you might start doing some side things. I started doing some side things with speaking, with leadership, and then that's what I started falling in love with, really like,
Sure.
equipping people. So I took the jump and selling my company from the educational part and going full force with leadership, which was new in the sense of being a business, but it wasn't new in the sense that it was part of who I really was. It was in tune with me. So I would say for those of you that are entrepreneurs, getting back in tune with your purpose. It may express itself in different ways. It may express itself in a different role. I believe entrepreneurship is one of the most beautiful journeys because it's very predictable. Most people think it's unpredictable, but no, it's very
Yeah.
predictable, like a job where you don't know, you're getting things coming there. So I love entrepreneurship for its predictability. I love entrepreneurship because it does reward effort. It takes time. Like
Sure.
anything, to
Uh,
build anything, it takes time. So if you like building, if you want to get in touch with building and the purpose, but really the fulfillment is what I would say was what my pursuit of was in my entrepreneurship journey. So serving, taking the leap, owning owning different parts of my roles, but
sure.
really going and search for that fulfillment, and that's what you're looking for. Some days, some weeks is 80 hours a week. I used to laugh a lot. I left a 40-hour a week job so I can work for 80 hours a day and get paid for 40. So
Exactly.
there's times I feel like
Exactly.
that, and other times where, my goodness, the success, the significance, there's nothing that
Right.
compares.
Well, I tell you, a lot of people have this idea that you and I sit on the beach and, we bring our laptop for an hour and do push a couple buttons and then, magic happens and all this money. And then naturally we have the rest of the day to sit on the beach. But I think what's interesting is, and I don't want to, excuse me, miss what you said, that fulfillment piece is really important because for somebody listening right now, you might be sitting there and there might be a part of your job that you like. Like for you, you said you like the speaking part. It's the same for me. I owned a company, but we were able to, transition it into. I was doing some speaking on behalf of that company,
Right.
and I just fell in love with that part. So the listener, I'm hoping that you're extra sensitive to what in your day you're really attracted to. What do you really
Yes.
enjoy about your day? What was it? Was there anything, Hannah, that stood out for you in your day that you really liked, whether it was speaking, serving? Was there one that just kind of rose to the top and really helped propel you onto your own business?
Yes, well, the aha moments. I love those aha, like when you're able to guide somebody. One thing is great when you get to do it, right? But when you get to train somebody else on how to do it and then they get the
Yeah,
result or they get a better result, or they like, oh, they tweaked a little bit and it is better than how
sure.
you think, like, oh, that's even better. You're like, that's great. Or those were my favorite moments. When I
That's
saw the team implementing ideas, that we ideated together,
yeah,
but then
sure,
took another notch. And it wasn't because I was leading it, it was because they were so invested in it. And that happened not only with my team, that happened when I would speak, I would go to educational conferences, when I would serve in
sure,
board of directors chairs. And then what also became is not only the feeling that came from there, but then the feeling I also got to bring back home because I have 4 kids. Now I have 5 kids. So that was also became part of the equation, right? Because I wanted to, it's no point in serving everybody if you can't serve your own family. So I also wanted to design my life to where I wanted to be there for their baseball games and their wrestling matches and their football and the cheerleading and
yep,
everything that goes in with that. And designing a life that did give me those moments and also allowed me to be there, especially for the most important moments for me and my kids' life during that very small period because they grow so quick. So I
right,
wanted
yeah.
to be there for them too.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that it kind of on the surface, that seems like a hard decision to make,
Yes.
Hannah, where some people you have to choose work or the baseball game, work or taking your kid to do something, right? The mother, daughter, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but I think if you are aligned and you prep for it ahead of time, I think you can really, I'm just curious, how did you do that? Because was there something nagging in the back of your head? I should be working because this is one of the things used to struggle with. It's like this thing, like you don't deserve to leave at 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon to go watch your son play baseball or whatever. You don't deserve that. That was like one of those messages that I had to fight with, and I'm just curious, did you have those issues
Oh, yeah.
moving through this?
We absolutely. Well, one is you use my word alignment. And I think that was really when I wasn't when we talk about conflict, it's because we come out of alignment, right? So yes, those voices, those conflicting voices, the mommy guilt for any of you, or the daddy guilt for some of you, like,
Yeah,
hey, I know I need to be out there, but I really want to be there. And even at work, you're there, but then it's like, hey, I need to work more, or I need to do this, whatever more is. So I did have those nagging things. I still battle with those because I can't be everywhere all the time. I mean, this only
sure.
God, right? So I can't
Yeah,
not be there. There are 5 of them. So guess what? Some of those baseball games, even in doing the whole full family thing, they were even
yeah,
inside the family dynamics. That's still, who am I
sure.
going beware for what, I'm gonna
Yeah.
miss something somewhere. And I think that the initial what you said again is the alignment, right? Because knowing that even a car that's in alignment, you're not always gonna go 100 miles an hour, which you shouldn't. But I'm just saying,
Right.
if you're in a race car, you're not always gonna go there. But also you're gonna go slow. You're gonna have to be able to be adaptable, be flexible, do all of these things. And then it really became a question of that. I mean, what helped me to be able to do that? That's where my whole efficiency concept really came in. It's like I needed to
Sure.
become efficient. I knew I had 24 hours a day. I needed to sleep part of that day because the sleep is part of my day. Um,
Right.
how can I do that, still get what I needed to get done as a CEO, as a mom with, 4 kids and then
Yeah.
became five, a baby, and then really also my own dreams, my own health, my own desires. And when all of that came into alignment, then it became that much easier to be able to say yes to things and no to things. And
Yeah.
I had to become very comfortable with saying no.
That's awesome. Did you feel like for your self-care came last?
Of
Because I
course.
feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have, they put everybody else, hey, I can just sleep less tonight if I do
Yes.
X, whatever
Yes.
X is. But boy, I gotta believe that eventually that comes back around to get you. And I'm just curious, was self-care something that you struggled with, or was that pretty easy for you?
No, it was definitely not easy, definitely struggle. And still, I mean, actually, that was part of this year. I wanted to get to a different level in my self-care. And I think all again is because of all the noise that we get from outside, right? Do more,
Sure,
do more, do more, be better. And I 100% would be better. But at what cost, right? So you always, in everything that we do, we mitigate risks, we mitigate costs. Now, my story is from a heart disease patient. So I lived with heart disease for 10 years as a kid, where I didn't have much of a choice but to stay in bed because any movement outside, I couldn't walk, I couldn't
oh
go to the
wow,
hallway. Yeah, my
oh my,
heart would go super fast. And it
okay,
wouldn't just go fast, but it would go into arrhythmia. So what would happen in those moments? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Again, moving limbs could be a danger to my life in sense of it could give me a heart attack. So I mean, it wasn't like even I could just move hands. So as a kid, things that
yeah,
you want to do that you're seeing like,
sure,
hey, there's all the
yeah,
people in the playground, birthday parties to go to and all the stuff. I couldn't go to actually for 5 years from the age of 10 to 15. Really, I lived in the hospital.
wow,
And I going through that in my body, I knew what exhaustion felt like. I know what burnout feels like. And let me tell you, fast forward in my adulthood, when thank God you see me, I'm here, I'm well.
yeah,
I don't have a heart disease, and that's part of
amen.
my story.
Yep,
That's part of
good.
HEARTnomics. Yeah, I was real quick at the age of 14, there was an opportunity for a high risk, never been done surgery called a heart ablation. So I became the first child as a part of the research experiment to have
Wow.
the surgery. I didn't know the impact of it until 20 years later when I get
Mm.
a call from the hospital that tells me, hey, not only we want to do a documentary on it, but you're the first of 3,000 children that have
Wow.
been saved through that. So
Sure.
that's really the whole heartnomics part. But when talking about self-care, you would think that somebody with heart disease will be very much aware of self-care. And
Sure.
that was one of the myths that I took. I chose to forget that. I chose to, and I say chose because we all have a choice. So in
Hmm.
going into like the full grind, hey, I'm gonna catch up because all those years that I was in bed, I'm gonna go now 100, well, 200%. I'm
Wow.
gonna hit a point where it's just that, well, and I did hit it. I did hit
Mm.
it, and it wasn't because of heart disease. It was
Yeah.
because of exhaustion. And I'm telling you all, for all my leaders, I see this every day.
Sure.
I basically experience heart disease as a leader, but not because of anything physical, because
Yeah.
of the stress, because of the
Sure.
rest I was not giving my body, because of not hydrating my body. Things that I knew that, oh, that can wait. Oh, that can wait because I'm serving,
Yeah.
right? I'm serving
Right.
and I'm serving my family.
Yep.
I'm serving the CEO as a CEO. I'm serving here in my community. So all of these things started coming first. Well, I started experiencing the same symptoms as I did as a heart disease.
Wow.
So, number
Mhm.
one, for all of those of you that have put in wellness or not health, not you first in health, you need to. And it's very possible that although you may not have heart disease, you are experiencing the symptoms of what
Sure,
a heart that is working too hard is doing. And
sure.
it's only because of hydration, sleep, and stress, really like trusting the systems, trusting the community, trusting your family, trusting the people that you're training in.
Yeah,
Now I have definitely put it as a priority. In understanding that, hey, if you don't have your health and you have like all this other stuff, you don't have anything. Like really. And again, I may be like I'm a slow learner because I went through that and later on see what I'm doing. And honestly, that's one of my reasons why I do. We're in an epidemic in as far as the burnout rates. And I mean, it was over 77% of our current professional population is reporting burnout.
wow.
Burnout feels just like heart disease. I've been in both places. So
Sure,
it is experiencing that to where, yes, sudden heart attacks, yes, exhaustion, yes, illness, your immune system, everything. So we are at an epidemic, and it is up to us leaders to create environments that promote the wellness, but it starts with us.
right.
A leader
Yeah,
knows the way,
absolutely.
guides the way, and shows the way.
Yeah,
So if we
yeah.
don't know how to do it, we can't expect our people to know how to do it.
No, that makes tons of sense. And that's really it always kind of shocked me when on an airplane they would tell you to put your mask on first before you put someone else's mask on if you had kids. And it just feels selfish to think of self-care, put my mask on first, so
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people I think have to battle with, in that. But I love the fact that the heartnomics has to do with the physical heart in that respect, but
Yeah.
also it stands for something. So, what does HEART stand for in your world? Because I love these five words, so I want to kind of unpack these here today.
Absolutely. Well, heart is the framework. That's where everything starts. And heart is for hope, empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. So these are the five values that without, again, we don't learn by experience, we learn by reviewed experience. So as I reviewed my experience, going through the hospital and the much examples of leadership that I saw, as I've had the opportunity to travel in country transformations and serve many hundreds of leaders, I realized that it is the values, those leaders that rise to the top and sustain it,
Yeah.
are those that lead with values. And these were five values that I saw consistently with leaders, and I've seen in my life really make a change when I became intentional in growing in these values.
Sure. Well, and I think some of these words are really kind of foreign to us as entrepreneurs.
Mm,
Hope doesn't seem like a word that you hear a lot of people, I hope I sell something today, maybe you get that, but the hope in trying to instill hope, because I think of the opposite hand, I think of hopelessness, and when you find somebody that's hopeless, that's a bad place to be, where they've
yeah,
given up all hope. Their team isn't helping them, their company isn't helping them, HR, nobody really in the company has provided them any hope. I mean, where do you, is that where you start, is hope with
yeah.
because it's an H, is that kind of the place you start?
It is started because honestly, hope is a catalyst for action.
Okay.
I think that hope is a concept, and we hope that this works, and kind of like a wishing well,
Right.
but
Yep.
really, hope is very active, and we can grow in hope. If we didn't have the ability to grow in hope, then it would just be cruel to tell you to have hope. Like if you can't, like, okay, how do I get it? What
Right. Yep.
so that there is a way to grow in hope. The thing about hope is that initially, what you see people of high hope are looking for ways to get it done. People of low hope may look like, hey, just left to the circumstances. And we're not talking about just positive thinking. We were like, hey, we wish, but we're talking about putting hope in action. Actually, I mean, I forgot what I was just listening to something where one of the strategies of war is to take the hope away, to hit people so hard and hard again. As soon as they try to do
Sure.
something, it's just to take the hope away, because once you take the hope away, they stop trying. I
Yeah.
realized there were opportunities in my life where I wasn't looking at things anymore, and I called it, I disguised it under time management. Oh, I just don't have the time for that. Reality was I had lost hope in that area, so therefore I was no longer looking in there to make a difference and impact in that area of my life. And that's
Yeah.
what you will see that with hope. Hope gives you a lens, like how can what I know this is a circumstance. It doesn't tell you like, hey, all things are nice and peachy.
Sure.
They're not. And one of the first factors for a leader is to be able to describe reality. And reality may not be what we want to see, I mean, right now, but it is the one of the most important service that we can do for our people. But
Sure.
and with that is also applying hope. How do we grow in hope? And those are the ways, the many shifts, the different things that how we start looking at areas. In my case, growing up, there was no cure in sight for my heart disease. There was at the time, and I say, I mean, again, that's why my surgery became a monumental medical breakthrough, was
Sure.
because that was the first. There was no cure. So as
Yeah.
far as hope, I learned at a young age of, what hopelessness feels like. I also learned what hope felt like with all these other people, and it wasn't by myself.
Yeah.
It was a community of people that even in light of failure could still nurture hope. And that's what it takes. It's going to take
Yeah.
not only you, but being in a community that also helps with hope, is listening to podcasts like yours. It is being able to hear those voices, because that starts bringing out that hope. So this is very much important for those of you that are building hope. Keep listening to Dave.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. It's interesting, when we're going to take a break here in a quick sec, but I wanted to share something. So when I wrote Growing on Purpose, my number one Amazon bestseller, we were talking about how to strengthen the team. And I found some research from Gallup, and they asked 10,000 people in the workplace what four words were really kind of like the best words to describe the best leader. And one of those words was hope. And
Mm,
so for somebody listening, just it's not just Hannah's idea that came up with a cool HEART. There's a ton of research that shows that your team is really looking for hope in the workplace. They're looking at it from a leader, because when a leader walks in and they're hopeless, what in the world do you think is going to happen to that team? I mean, if the leader's having a bad day, it's really hard to, tell the rest of the world, hey, I'm having a bad day. I don't have much hope today. We don't have much hope today. What do you think people are going to do when they hear that or see that? I mean, they're pretty much bailing as quick as they possibly
yeah.
can. So yeah, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, and I want to unpack the rest of those, because there's like accountability. It's like, oh my gosh, I became an entrepreneur so I didn't have to be accountable to somebody, so there's going to be some fun here. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Honored to be hanging out with Hanna Bauer, founder and CEO at HEARTnomics Enterprises. And we are unpacking what HEART stands for. And we know the H is hope, empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. So we
Mhm.
started with hope. So now let's talk about empowerment, because that really feels like now you're energizing me, you're giving me some
Yes.
skin in the game. You're giving me some opportunity here. So when you think of empowerment in this, Hannah, how does that look to you?
So there's a couple of things with empowerment, because one is empowerment of self, right? And then the other one's empowerment of others. You cannot give what you don't have. And I run this into leaders all the time, where they're um, trying or giving or something to somebody else, yet they themselves feel disempowered, or they themselves feel like, they're not valuing themselves. So part of
Okay.
empowerment is valuing yourself, so then you can value others and then add value to them. So in empowerment also comes delegation. It's about training. It's about helping others, creating that environment where people are able to take on tasks, because that is, again, as a leader, how do you know you're a leader? Well, you're creating other leaders. So part of empowerment is being able to also create the other leaders. Do you have to duplicate yourself? But I would say in this part where I'm running the most is the when we're talking about scarcity, is really a lot of leaders feeling disempowered, especially in light of technology. There's
Yeah,
a lot of things with now this AI tools, different ways where technology seems to be, we call technology smart all the time. And in a
sure.
sense, it's empowering the teams on the intelligence even in the room, the innovation in the room, because we're leaving it to these tools that in some sense they could create more things when not empowering ourselves as the creators, as the
Yeah,
ones that brought these tools to life. So part of the empowerment that I see now is really speaking into your people the power that they have in creation, the power that they have and be able to take ownership and to continue to do accomplish the mission or the vision. We're selling things, we're servicing other humans created by humans. I don't think any technology tool has yet to have on its own paid
sure.
us.
Right.
We are,
Yep.
there's usually a human behind it that is paying. So in that sense is empowering, is also honoring the human centric
Yeah.
aspect.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I think there's some people listening right now that they're thinking in their mind, Hannah, my bucket is empty. I don't have anything to give out because I'm not getting anything from my career, my family, whatever. How do you help that person? What encouragement do you have for somebody listening that wants to empower others, wants to empower themselves, but they're just depleted of any energy? Where do you start with that?
Well, one is acknowledgement. We just said, when you feel that, stop,
Okay.
that honor that feeling, acknowledge that feeling, because continuing to push on that is only going to lead to a quicker decline. So the
Sure.
main thing, one thing is being one is the awareness, and it does take a self-aware leader. That's where emotional intelligence comes in. That's where
Yep.
even just the feeling, just listening to your body, the acknowledgement of it. Hey, I'm running a bit empty here. I need something that fills my cup. And this is where I run into a lot of with other leaders because of the constant hustle and grind and everything. Some have really lost, like, well, I don't know what would fill my cup. Like I really don't know even who I am because
Yeah.
they've been following somebody else or serving something. Even in being a mom, it becomes
Right.
very easy, like your entire purpose identity is in kids. So and that's where I would bring it back, understanding that your role is your role, but you have a purpose. So getting in touch again with your purpose. That's what I call alignment. That's what I did write heart, hustle with heart. It's about getting in touch that internal alignment. And for my leaders out there that are feeling like that, is my honor that feeling and then
Yeah.
do something about it. That's why we're human beings, okay, not human doing. So it's a part of being, and part of
Sure.
being is that network, right? We talk about your net worth is according to your network. Even think about technology. You can have the greatest of app, but it's not connected to a network, it's not going to do anything. Same thing with your leaders. You're not going to be able to do this by yourself. That's where coaches come in, where they can help you see the blind spots. That's where people that, again, a community that is doing this work together. And main thing is going back into the purpose, not measuring only by how you're feeling, because we are highly emotional beings, and our feelings can lead us in different places. But passion definitely comes in with purpose, but it's not the only thing about purpose. It is a way that purpose is expressed. So that's where I would tell you, when is the last time you checked in with your purpose? That would be the question right now.
Sure.
When did
Sure.
you check in with your purpose? Are you in your purpose? How would you know? If you're in your purpose right now, how do you know? Because when you are in purpose, as hard as it gets, all this stuff, you know what you get back when you operate in that? You get fulfillment. So I will check. A lot of times the fulfillment cup is what it feels. So how are you receiving that fulfillment? Like you just asked me, well, what was it about your day that really helped you? I talked about, those aha moments. Okay, so
Yeah.
how am I receiving those aha moments now? Because that's fulfillment. Even in the hard work, how am I getting those moments? How in my day, how am I filling my cup with that? So it's being aware of exactly asking that question that you asked me, what is your favorite part of the day?
Yeah.
How can you get more of that?
Sure.
That's how you start filling it up.
That's awesome. And I think purpose, just for the world that's listening, I don't know, I don't want to overcomplicate it. To me, the purpose is like, why am I doing this? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be super complicated. Is that how you would explain purpose to somebody? If people are like, I don't know, Hannah, I go to work 50 weeks a year. I go, and then I live for these 2 weeks of vacation. And then these 2 weeks of vacation, I stand in a line at Six Flags or at Disney and I'm just like frustrated with that, I don't know my purpose. I mean, if people are really struggling with that, it feels like you can't really move on without that.
Yeah.
Is that the question of why am I doing this? Is
Yeah.
that how you would kind of start with that?
I think definitely it's a great start. I think it's the why, and it's also the why behind the why. Because you may say, well, why? Because it pays well. Well, why does
Yeah,
it pay well? Because then it helped me get the house I wanted. Well, why do you want that house? You know,
yeah,
well, because I saw it one time, or my spouse wanted, or my parents wanted that for me. Okay, well, why did your parents want that for you? So
sure,
even going in deeper, the why behind the why. So getting in a little bit of depth, but why is definitely a great question. It's very difficult, especially if you're going through a hard time. Again, as a kid, I was encountered with purpose a lot because I knew there was more than just being in bed. I mean, I saw it. I saw other kids enjoying
sure.
themselves, other things. And it's easy to let circumstances even dictate your purpose. It's easy for that. So it does take work. I will say it's for my leaders out there, it does take work. The great news is that yes, you can, and yes, you are equipped to do it. And it takes work to take the noise out of the circumstance and get back in touch. And for that means turning off a lot of things. Many times we don't we all this confusion because yes, we have social media, yes, we have emails coming in, yes, we have family needs, we have bills, financial, all this kind of stuff. But it let me tell you, it does take there's great payoffs, great profit in taking that time, taking that break so you can get in touch with their purpose because that will help you get clarity in your next step. That's going to make you
Yeah,
more effective. It's going to make you more profitable. Like I said, not just do the thing, but do the right thing. Do the
sure.
right thing for
Yeah,
you. And it takes work, but that's why we're
yeah.
here. There's a whole community of people. That's why
Right.
we're here.
No, exactly. But I think there's a lot of people, Hannah, that are like, this is where they're challenged because I don't have time to slow down. I got to make payroll or I got to pay rent or I got to go sell something. There's these blind spots that we think that there's no positive in slowing down.
Mhm,
You talked about becoming more adaptable before you talked about slowing down. These are
mhm.
some words that are foreign to some of the entrepreneurs that are
Yeah.
listening because again, I don't have time to slow down. People say slow down to speed up. And it's like, why don't I just put my foot on the gas now? Why do I have to put my foot on the brake before? I mean, it's your brain sometimes doesn't comprehend that. So I'm glad that you keep, excuse me, sharing that with us because we need that encouragement to slow down. And maybe it's only like a half hour a week. I don't know what it looks like for people, but it's sure, if you don't do it, again, if you put other people's masks on first, you might not have enough energy and oxygen left for yourself, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the greatest of machines that we have. It's just machines, robots. There's nothing else. They all need to rest. Your computer needs a reset. You have to turn it off. If you don't, you see what starts all acting up, everything. You got to turn everything off and
Sure.
turn everything back on. Sometimes it's not even enough to just turn it off. You got to wait 10 seconds or 30 seconds, or maybe let's wait
Yeah.
10 minutes, right? There's like,
Yep.
depending on the thing, right? Race cars, amazing
Yep.
race cars. They still have to pull to the side to what? Change their tires and realign. So
Yep.
understand it is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength to stop. That's what it is. You really become stronger in the stopping. And life has a way to also show you either you stop on your own or life
Yep.
will make you stop as well. There's also
Yep.
health things that can come up. There's relationship things that come up. I mean, we see that in the workplace. We see that, a problem with our family, how much time it may take away, but understand that it's not just about doing the thing, but it's about also getting fulfillment in that, being
Sure.
purposeful in that. And like I said, is it a time management thing? Is it I don't have time, or is it a hope thing? Is it like, oh, I've
Yeah.
tried that before. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. Is it like I really don't know what to do with this? So you know what? I'm just not gonna do anything about it. That
Yeah.
is hopelessness talking. So that's what I would
Sure.
say. You gotta fill up your hope cup. And it's okay if you don't know. There's many times in my life where I couldn't get myself back up. And you know what? You don't have to just get in the room. Just start listening to some stuff. Just what comes in through your eyes, what comes in through your ears definitely has an impact on you. So even
Sure.
if you can't think right now, just get in the room. Just start
Yeah.
listening to some things. Listen to positive podcasts, right? Listen
Yeah.
to audio books. Just get around it, and eventually it will come in.
That's awesome. And sometimes you need other people around you, and that's
Right.
why HEARTnomics Enterprises is here to be
Yes.
able to help you with that piece. So, the third one then is accountability. And again, this is one that a lot of us entrepreneurs would wish that you could skip. So, HEART and skip this A, or put A as an attaboy or something. But man, accountability here, Hannah. Who am I accountable to, and why is that important?
Oh, that's such a good question. I debated a lot when I was thinking like accountability, but I saw again performing leaders, high sustainable leaders, highly fulfilled leaders are also leaders that are accountable to somebody and accountable to themselves, accountable to the mission, accountable to the vision of the organization. And accountability is not just about, hey, I did, check off what I did, but accountability really for me, it talks about community because you can't just be accountable to yourself. I mean, like accountability to what?
Yeah,
It starts with
right,
people like, because it's for people. Because when I'm held accountable, right? When I take ownership, I'm accountable. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. It's going to have an impact on the outside. So anytime I'm accountable, and this is where we have both created a culture of fear around accountability,
hmm,
because we've used it punitive in many ways. Accountability, we should be holding them accountable.
yeah,
Yet accountable is what allows us to be able to do the things that we do when we are able to build that self-efficacy, because that's what it really does, right? When I'm accountable to myself, when I make a commitment, and nobody else may have to know about it, but I make a
right,
commitment and I'm accountable to that commitment, it helps me grow. Now, when I make that commitment, we know that when I make that commitment and I make it publicly, I'm gonna have greater,
right,
I increase my opportunity to be successful in it. So
right.
we know that the greater the accountability doesn't decrease me or doesn't make me do less. Greater accountability allows me to create more and be more. So not running away from it, but how do I build that? And then how do I build that in others?
Yeah.
And that is one of the things, again, the many shifts and the way that we look at it. It's your friend. Accountability helps you.
Wow. And I can see where entrepreneurs, business owners are like, hey, I'm going to hold my team accountable, right? They want to hold other people accountable. But then when somebody tries to hold them accountable, it's like, wait a minute here. This is why I own the place. So I don't need that accountability. But is that where Heartnomics Enterprises, do you help with that accountability for somebody listening
Yes.
that might not have an accountability partner, so to speak? Is that where you guys come in and help?
Yeah, absolutely, because it deals with integrity. And well, one of the pillars that we have is integrity and service. And when we're talking about processes and systems, right? Like the other side, I told you, like, how can the rigidity coexist with the love? Well, you got to
Yeah,
have processes and systems. Those processes and systems won't work unless they're integrous. There have to be integrous and service. In order for processes to work, there has to be integrity in the process. Integrity is very much tied to accountability. So if you want a process to work, whatever process, your SOPs, your all the stuff, we're all saying this is the thing, this is how we're gonna work on it.
sure,
The only way it's gonna work if we maintain the integrity of the process. That's what we talk about integrity in the judicial system, integrity in the way that we look at things, integrity in the way that we make decisions. So
sure.
integrity, why integrity? How do I measure integrity? We measure it with accountability. We
Yeah,
measure did it do the thing that it said it was going to do. That's how we're holding it accountable. If it didn't, we change the process. If it didn't,
sure.
we tweak the process, right?
Yeah,
We start looking at the system. We start looking, well, how did that did it maintain in was it integrous in service? You think about that. I mean, that's we want things to be integrous. We want things like, for example, the medications. You want to make sure that when you're getting that dose, it's the right dose.
yeah,
Otherwise, it can cause an overdose, or
sure.
otherwise, it
Yep,
can cause worse things. So you want to make sure that it's labeled right. So we depend on integrity a lot in the
sure.
services that we do, but we can expect to have integrity without the accountability, and it starts with the leadership. Because if we
Yep,
don't care about this, us being accountable and integrous in sense,
sure.
we can't expect our processes and systems to be integrous in service so they can do the thing that we say is going to do.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do does not really work in this world because we need that accountability as leaders, which again, hopefully people didn't turn us off at that point. But because the next two are really powerful, the results is what we're all looking for. I mean, some kind of result, if we do these things, then this is going to happen. So is that is like the hope, empowerment, and accountability is results kind of a byproduct of those three things. If we have those, results will happen.
Absolutely. So results brings a spotlight to what is all my activity, what is it leading me to, right? Because you're getting a result. I mean, result is not only
Yep.
positive. You're getting
Yeah,
some sort of result. You may like the result right now that you're getting, or you may not like the result that you're getting,
sure,
right? So results is both. It gives me the spotlight, like it puts it gives me where do I need to be looking? What are the results I'm currently having in my life? But it also gives me guidance, right? Okay, if I change this, if I do this, this is what I expect. So
sure,
results both it is they're a guide for me. It gives a way, and then if I can get more into like the the whole quantitative into qualitative data, but if we talk about hope, right? I mean, how do you know you're hopeful today? Well, there has to be a way that you measure hope. There has to be a way that you measure what you do. So then
sure.
when we're talking about results, is we're talking about both the measurement and where is it supposed to be. So
Gotcha.
when we're looking at even in growing in my fulfillment, well, how am I measuring fulfillment? The worst nightmare is every day that I try to hit a goal that I don't know that I'm trying to hit, or trying to
Mm,
get a result that I don't know I'm trying to change or I'm trying to
sure.
get. So
Yeah.
results speaks to both bringing awareness of there has to be a way to measure where you're at right now so that you can change, so you can impact, so you can grow in that. So spotlighting what you need to look, where you need to look at, looking at ways of how to measure it. And the other one is, well, how will you know? How will you know that it's indeed is working? So that's the internal alignment, because
Sure.
that honestly becomes a frustration a lot with leaders, where like I want to be better. Like I want to be better 2026. Well, what is better?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you got to
Yep.
put in some markers, because at the end of the year, at the end of 2026, December 31st, 2026, how will you know that in the you are better? A
Yeah,
feeling? Okay, how do you measure that
right.
feeling? You can measure a
Sure.
feeling. We do that in the hospital too, right? You have like the mad face all the way
Yep.
through like the happy face and pain. That's even
Yep.
just a thing. You can even do like a daily tick, but there has to be a way to measure, because only
Sure.
that is gonna your results are gonna tell you, are you gonna be able to then see if the results you're getting are they heading the right direction?
Well, and that's why HEARTnomics Enterprises is here because if you are struggling right now with results, why not have an outside source to help you with that? Because again, you can say, I want to lose weight in 2026, and you can, quite frankly, you can trim your fingernails, and that can be your weight loss for the year. Not probably what most people are thinking about, but to be quantitative on those results, I think is so powerful. I always liken this to like if we build the best looking golf course in the world, it's just pristine. But the problem is we didn't put any greens and we didn't put any holes in. And you're standing at the first tee box, and I say, "Go ahead, Hannah, tee off, just hit the ball." And you're like, "Where am I going?" And we're
Mhm.
like, "I don't just hit it. It doesn't matter where you're going." I mean, that to me seems like a
How
company
boring is
without
that?
results. But if we don't know what we're shooting for, what in the world, how fun would basketball be without a net and a hoop? It wouldn't even, it'd just be called dribbling.
Right.
That's all we do all day, right? And there's no way to win. So I think results are so awesome. And the last one then becomes like, I almost feel like this one it's like the five dysfunctions of a team from Patrick Lencioni. The bottom is trust, right? If you don't have trust on your team, you don't, if your customers don't trust you, if your team doesn't trust you, if your shareholders don't trust you, if there's no trust, you got a really hard time having any success. So when you wrote trust in there for your T in heart, what were you thinking at that spot?
Yeah, exactly that. Trust. I mean, what makes sustainability, right? I mean, not only the engagement, like you said, well, if I in business, right? If I don't know you, like you, or trust you, I'm not gonna do a business with you. So trust
Sure,
has to deal with income, with business. I mean, even just the value of our money, it says, there's a trust behind it, right? Like there's a trust of what this is gonna get me, this is what I'm gonna get in return. There's trust. In relationships, if you don't have trust in the work relationship, if I don't trust my organization, I'm not going to work for you. If I don't trust you as an employee, we're just also not going to work together. So
sure.
in relationships, if you don't have trust, is there's no relationship. So, and what we're seeing, honestly, and it is pretty scary, the trust deficit that we have. Um, and you can blame it on technology. You can blame it on the breakdown of just communication and all the things. But at the end of the day, um, we are honestly in a trust economy that is collapsing and is collapsing quickly.
Yeah.
Not only in the micro level, which is in relationships. Again, even simple things like AI, do you even know if that video is for real? Does that person really
Right.
look like the way that they do? We started with Photoshop. Now it's beyond, not even
Yeah.
Photoshop. Now it's entire videos of people talking.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so this whole trust, can I trust you? So then maybe I don't, maybe some people are taking like, I'm just not gonna trust anybody. That way, like I'm not gonna get hurt or I'm not gonna
Right.
get swindled, I'm not gonna get taken
Yep.
advantage of. But that also doesn't work. It doesn't, it's not gonna work because then you're also gonna forget about having a relationship, having a business. Because if you don't want to trust anybody, why would people trust you, right? You guys are give and
Sure.
get. That's the thing with trust.
Yep.
There's deposits going both ways. There's deposits and withdrawals going both ways.
Sure.
So
Yep.
understand that trust is not in it. Yes, it starts with you, and that, and a lot of times that's really with heart and really the methodology beat that internal alignment. It starts with trust and trusting on myself. Do I trust my abilities? Do I trust my judgment? And it goes
Yeah.
back to purpose, right? Is this even like the right thing for me? Do I know my purpose? You know, how am I doing in the trust factor with me? Now with my team, how am I
Sure.
doing with the trust factor with my team? And how do I know that they trust me? And it is something going back to the culture, going back to your character for an organization, the culture for the individual, your character. We know people because of their character. Their, you know, what is, the credibility, right? The trust comes in there. You know, oh, I know that person. I know how they're going to think. And the same thing with an
Yeah.
organization is that culture. Oh, I know what they're for. Trust is 100% tied to both of them. Again, the sustainability, not a one-off, right? When we talk about trust, we're also talking about consistency. So, in how consistent am I in delivering what I say I'm going to deliver in
Yeah.
my word, in my actions? So, definitely an area to grow in is something that I work with my a lot with my leaders. And
Sure.
like I said, it is honestly it's a global epidemic.
Yeah.
At the global level, the scary numbers I saw in Elderman Barometer of Trust, where it said over 64% of people do not trust organizations. They don't trust. And
Sure.
then we're talking about governments, we're talking about stores, we're talking about small business. So there is a big trust deficit. That means economy slows down,
Yeah.
income goes down, fulfillment goes down, relationships go down, all in general. So we can raise that trust factor in our favor. It's going to be better for everybody.
Sure.
That's going to be all around the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the Better Business Bureau always talks about the scams that are out there. And it's
Yeah.
sad that scams like increase at Christmas, the time where people are open to giving and open to more things than maybe they are throughout
Yeah.
the year. Human beings have to take advantage of that. So it's sad, but I think if you're listening and trust is not something that you're talking about regularly with your team, I think this is a great opportunity to introduce that to them in 2026 or whenever you're listening to this, because it is by far the basis of what else. If you don't have trust in an organization, what else you got? I mean, you can't even trust your paycheck's going to bounce
Yeah.
or it's going to cash. You can't trust that your coworker next to you is going to stab you with a pen. I mean, there's just like all this weird stuff. I mean, it's weird, but people are struggling with trust. Like you said, it's getting to be out of control. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's in your heart method there. And as we land the plane today, I have two more questions for you. What would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Hannah, maybe it's something we covered. Maybe it's something that hasn't got out of your heart yet. But what's your tip of the day for somebody listening?
Well, so for somebody listening, you've heard to heart and the values, and yes, hope, empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. But how do you grow in them? You know, how is that? Is that really this was made so that we can grow? So for that, I have a quick tip for you, which is the BEAT method, and that's a quick: believe, engage, act, transform, and that's an internal alignment. So I would ask you for those of you who are there to get curious. curious about your belief in an area. What is your current belief? And engage with it. And meaning that, what are your current resources around that? Who do you know? Who's killing it in that area? Or, who can help in sending a text or call? How can you engage with it? And in one small action, one of the things I learned, especially at a young age, is that the smallest of action will trample the greatest of intention. So you don't have to move the entire ship today. Just one small thing. It is
Sure.
one small step. I can't emphasize that enough. And then they look at the transformation. What is a transformation? So a quick beat: believe, engage, act, transform. What is the transformation I'm looking for today? And that's a great area to bring awareness, get curious, and have fun with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Between BEAT and HEART, there's all these acronyms for people. If people are listening right now, Hannah, and they have a question that we haven't touched on, they want to learn more about Heartnomics Enterprises, or they just want to, kind of get your feedback on something, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me on my website. There, I actually have a quick free alignment assessment that you can use. And yes, acronyms, but really what they read is heartbeat. And that's because your heartbeat matters and you matter. And the best way is being in alignment and filling out your life and doing an amazing work with organizations. So, in there at heartnomics.com, you'll also be able to see an assessment for organizations, and would love to connect with you. LinkedIn, social media. So any of those, but your heartbeat matters, you matter, and we're grateful every day for each beat that we have.
Wow, that's awesome. So heartnomics.com, HEARTnomics.com. And
Yes.
there's a bunch of great information there. And that's the best way to connect with Hannah. Hannah, I could sit and do this all day. I love this topic. I got to let you go. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you for helping us with the heartbeat. Hopefully that one or two of those things that we talked about will, connect with people. And I say it every week to the listener, rather than jump into your next podcast, jump into your next activity, just sit with what we talked about. Maybe
Mm,
there's one thing that's just burning within you that you're like, man, I really have to think about X, whatever that was that we talked about today. Just don't jump into your next thing, because you'll forget about that and it won't have the impact that it really can have if you allow it. Hannah was kind enough to open up her heartbeat method to us, which is a great way to look at your alignment. And maybe it's something for 2026 that you can treat yourself by giving her a call, connecting with her, and just asking her the question. That's why we're here. We're here every week. She's here every day doing something, helping somebody on this planet. So why not have it be you? So again, thanks, Hannah, so much for hanging out with us. And I can't wait to hear what's next after Heartbeat. I know there's more, so
yes.
I'm just going to keep watching because I know there's more. So again, thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me.